The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK is a best-selling self-help book by Mark Manson, and it's kind of famous for doing the opposite of typical be positive, hustle harder motivation. It's not about being careless or rude. It's about choosing what actually deserves your energy and letting go of the rest. Mark's core idea is, you have a limited number of FCKs to give in life, so spend them wisely. If you are tired of trying to stay positive, if you are exhausted from fixing everything in your life, if motivation videos make you feel good for 10 minutes and empty again, then this audiobook is for you. Because this is not a book that tells you to think positive, wake up at 5 a.m., or manifest happiness by pretending everything is fine. This is a book that says something dangerous, something uncomfortable, something most self-help books are scared to admit. Your life is hard, and that's normal. The book is written by Mark Manson. Mark Manson is not a monk, not a motivational speaker on a stage. He's a writer who got tired of fake advice and decided to tell the truth, even if it hurts. This book doesn't teach you how to be happy all the time. It teaches you how to stop suffering unnecessarily. It doesn't say, you can have everything. It asks a better question. What is actually worth caring about? Because here's the reality nobody tells you. You have limited energy, limited time, limited emotional capacity. If you give AF asterisk CK about everything, you'll end up caring about nothing that truly matters. You must be wondering how this audiobook will help you. The book will help you too. Stop wasting emotional energy on things you can't control. Choose better problems instead of chasing fake happiness. Accept pain without letting it destroy you, and live a more honest, grounded, peaceful life. And no, this is not about becoming careless or cold. It's about becoming clear. If you listen to this entire audiobook, it won't take much time from your day. But the way you think about stress, failure, success, and self-worth may never be the same again. So don't listen casually. Don't multitask. Just listen, because the impact of these ideas can last far longer than the time you spend hearing them. Now let's go inside the core ideas of this book. Slowly, clearly, and honestly, how the book actually starts. The book doesn't start with advice. It doesn't start with motivation. It starts with a story. Mark Manson opens a book by talking about a famous person who had money, fame, success, everything people chase. And yet, he was deeply unhappy. Right from the start, Mark challenges a belief most of us carry. If I become successful, I'll finally be happy. Then he flips the script. He says the real problem is not that our lives are hard. The real problem is that we expect life to be easy. From the very first pages, he makes one thing clear. Pain as part of life's struggle is unavoidable, and trying to escape discomfort is what actually makes us miserable. Instead of saying, think positive, the book begins by saying, choose what is worth struggling for. That's the tone of the entire book. Blunt, honest, almost uncomfortable, but strangely relieving, because someone is finally saying what you already feel inside. This opening sets the foundation for everything that follows. Why chasing happiness fails, why suffering gives life meaning, why caring less about useless things helps you care more about what truly matters. The Subtle Art of Not Giving AF asterisk CK has 9 chapters. The chapters aren't long or academic. They feel like honest conversations, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes funny, but always direct. So let's dive in. Chapter 1. Don't try. Mark Manson does not begin this book by telling you how to improve your life. He begins by almost telling you to stop trying so hard. He opens with the story of Charles Bukowski, a man who, by every normal definition, was a failure Bukowski grew up poor. He was rejected again and again by publishers. He worked boring, soul-crushing jobs. He drank heavily. He lived a life most people would desperately try to escape. And yet, Bukowski never pretended to be anything else. While others tried to look successful, Bukowski wrote about being miserable. While others chased approval, he accepted rejection. While others hid their flaws, he put them on paper. And years later, that honesty made him famous. Mark uses this story to introduce a deeply uncomfortable truth. The more desperately you want to be happy, the more unhappy you become. Why? Because every time you tell yourself, I must be happy, you are also telling yourself, I am not happy enough right now. That gap creates suffering. Modern culture constantly tells us, you should feel confident, you should love your life, you should be grateful all the time. And when you don't feel these things, which is normal, you start fighting yourself. This chapter explains that pain is unavoidable. Trying to eliminate pain is not wisdom. It's denial. Life is not about feeling good all the time. Life is about handling discomfort well. When you stop demanding that life must be positive, you stop feeling like a failure for being human. This chapter doesn't tell you to give up. It tells you to stop trying to control emotions that were never meant to be controlled. And once you accept that pain is part of life, a new question naturally appears. If suffering is unavoidable, then what is it for? Chapter 2, Happiness is a Problem. This chapter challenges one of the biggest lies we are sold. We are taught that happiness is a destination, that once certain problems disappear, happiness will begin. Mark calls this dangerous thinking, because happiness is not the absence of problems. Happiness is the process of solving problems. Every stage of life comes with its own struggles. Students struggle with direction, professionals struggle with pressure, parents struggle with responsibility, successful people struggle with meaning. If you remove one problem, another replaces it. So when people say, I'll be happy once this problem ends, they are setting themselves up for disappointment. Mark explains that misery often comes from choosing the wrong problems. For example, wanting constant validation creates anxiety. Wanting to be liked by everyone creates loneliness. Wanting comfort above all creates stagnation. Our culture encourages us to feel bad about feeling bad. This creates a second layer of suffering. You're not just sad. You're ashamed of being sad. You're not just anxious. You think you shouldn't be anxious. This chapter teaches a radical idea. Negative emotions are not mistakes. They are feedback. When you stop running from discomfort, you start understanding yourself better. This idea flows directly from Chapter 1. Once you stop trying to feel good all the time, you can finally focus on living honestly. And that honesty leads to an even more difficult realization. Chapter 3, You Are Not Special. This chapter attacks a belief many of us secretly hold. We are taught from childhood that we are unique, destined, special. While this sounds motivating, Mark argues that it creates silent pressure. If you believe you are supposed to be exceptional, then an ordinary life starts to feel like failure. You begin comparing constantly. Why is everyone else ahead? Why am I still stuck? Why doesn't my life feel meaningful yet? Mark is not saying you are worthless. He is saying you are not entitled to greatness. And this is freeing. When you accept that you are not special, you stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing attention. You stop measuring your worth through comparison. You no longer need the world to clap for you to feel okay. This chapter connects deeply to the earlier ones. Pain is normal. Problems never disappear. Being average is not a personal failure. Meaning does not come from being better than others. It comes from being honest with yourself. And once ego steps aside, another powerful idea takes its place: responsibility. Chapter 4, The Value of Suffering. Here, the book becomes very clear. Everyone suffers. The question is not if, but why. Mark explains that values determine the quality of our suffering. Some values are shallow. Popularity, image, external success. Suffering for these feels empty, endless, and exhausting. Other values are grounded. Honesty, commitment, responsibility, growth. Suffering for these feels meaningful, even when it hurts. For example, working endlessly to impress others leads to burnout. Working hard to build stability creates inner peace. This chapter teaches you to stop asking, "What do I want from life?" and start asking, "What am I willing to struggle for?" Because what you're willing to suffer for defines who you become. This chapter quietly prepares the listener for what comes next. Taking responsibility without blaming, understanding failure differently, letting go of false hope. And this is where the book truly starts changing how you see yourself. Chapter 5, You're Always Choosing. This chapter quietly shifts the book from philosophy to responsibility. Mark Manson introduces a simple but uncomfortable idea. You are always choosing, whether you realize it or not, even when you say, "I had no choice." That itself was a choice. Even when life feels unfair, painful, or overwhelming, your response to it is still yours. Mark makes a crucial distinction here. Fault is not always yours, responsibility always is. Something bad may not be your fault, but dealing with it is still your responsibility. This idea can feel harsh at first, but Mark explains why it's actually empowering. The moment you accept responsibility, you regain control. If you blame your parents, your past society luck, you may feel justified, but you feel powerless. Responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means owning your response. This chapter links strongly to the earlier ones. If suffering is unavoidable, if happiness comes from solving problems, then responsibility is what allows growth. Avoiding responsibility feels easier in the short term, but long term it traps you. Owning responsibility feels heavy at first, but it creates freedom. And once you start taking responsibility, another truth becomes clear. You might be wrong about a lot more than you think. Chapter 6, You're Wrong About Everything But Me. This chapter attacks certainty. Mark argues that certainty is dangerous. Most of our pain doesn't come from reality. It comes from the stories we tell ourselves about reality. We cling to beliefs like, "This is who I am. This is how life works. This is what I deserve." And when reality contradicts these beliefs, we suffer. Mark explains that personal growth requires one thing above all: the willingness to be wrong. Being wrong doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're learning. But ego hates being wrong. Ego wants to be right, even at the cost of happiness. This chapter explains why people stay stuck. They protect their identity. They defend their beliefs. They avoid questioning themselves. Growth feels like loss at first. You lose certainty. You lose familiar excuses. You lose comforting lies. But in exchange, you gain clarity. This chapter connects deeply with responsibility. You cannot take responsibility if you believe you're always right. And once you accept that you might be wrong, another idea naturally follows: failure. Chapter 7, Failure is the way forward. This chapter reframes failure completely. Mark explains that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Avoiding failure means avoiding action. Avoiding action means staying stuck. Most people fail not because they try and lose, but because they never try at all. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel ready. They wait for fear to disappear. But confidence comes after action, not before. Mark shows that failure is feedback. It tells you what doesn't work, what needs adjustment, where growth is required. This chapter ties beautifully to earlier ideas. You are not special. You will struggle. You will be wrong. Failure stops being personal when you stop tying it to your self-worth. You don't fail as a person. You fail at attempts, and those attempts shape you. But to truly grow, you must learn one more difficult skill. Saying no. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. This chapter is about boundaries. Mark explains that every yes is also a no to something else. When you say yes to everything, you dilute your energy. You betray your values. You live reactively. Saying no is not selfish. It's clarity. People who never say no often feel resentful, overwhelmed, emotionally drained. This chapter ties directly to the book's core message. You have limited CKs to give. If you don't choose where they go, others will choose for you. Saying no is painful at first, but saying yes to everything is painful forever. This chapter reinforces values. What you say no to defines your priorities, just as much as what you say yes to. And once values are clear, the final chapter zooms out to life itself. Chapter 9. And then you die. The book ends not with motivation, but with mortality. Mark reminds us of a truth we avoid. Life is finite. You will not have time to care about everything. You will not fix every problem. You will not fulfill every expectation. And that's okay. Death gives life urgency. Meaning exists because time is limited. This chapter ties the entire book together. You are not special. Suffering is inevitable. Responsibility is unavoidable. Values give pain meaning. When you accept death, you stop wasting energy on meaningless things. You stop chasing validation. You stop pretending. You start living intentionally. The book doesn't promise happiness. It offers something better, a meaningful life, honestly lived. So, let's recap what we learned from the subtle art of not giving CK. 1. Life is supposed to be hard. Struggle is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Pain is part of being alive. The moment you stop expecting life to be easy, half your suffering disappears. 2. Chasing happiness makes you unhappy. Happiness is not a permanent state. It comes from solving problems, not escaping them. The goal is not to feel good all the time, but to live honestly. 3. You don't need to care about everything. Your energy is limited. If you give importance to everything, nothing truly matters. Choose carefully what deserves your attention, time, and emotions. 4. Negative emotions are not enemies. Stress, fear, sadness, and anger are signals. Ignoring them or forcing positivity makes things worse. Listening to them helps you grow. 5. You are not special, and that's freeing. You don't need to be extraordinary to live a meaningful life. Ordinary struggles don't mean you failed. They mean you're human. 6. Comparison destroys peace. Measuring your life through other success creates dissatisfaction. Meaning comes from values, not validation. 7. You are always responsible for your response. Something may not be your fault, but dealing with it is still your responsibility. Responsibility gives you power, not blame. 8. Being wrong is part growth. Certainty traps you. Questioning your beliefs opens the door to change. Growth begins where ego steps aside. 9. Failure is necessary, not shameful. Failure is feedback. Confidence comes after action, not before it. Avoiding failure means avoiding life. 10. What you suffer for defines your life. Everyone suffers. The difference is whether that suffering has meaning. Choose values worth struggling for. 11. Saying no is a form of self-respect. Every yes costs energy. Boundaries protect what truly matters. You don't know access to everyone. 12. Life is limited, so choose wisely. You won't have time for everything. Death gives urgency and clarity. Meaning comes from choosing what matters most. 13. This book doesn't teach indifference. It teaches clarity, not caring about useless things, so you can deeply care about what truly matters. This book is not about becoming careless. It's about becoming intentional, not about giving 0 FCKS, but about giving the right FCKS. And when you do that, life doesn't become easier, but it becomes lighter. Before you go, thank you for giving your time and attention to this video. In a world full of noise, choosing to listen till the end means something. If even one idea from this book made you pause, question your thinking, or see your life a little differently, then this time was worth it. Remember, change doesn't happen in one moment. It happens when small ideas stay with you long after the video ends. If this video helped you, come back again. We'll keep exploring ideas that don't just sound good, but actually help you live better. Until then, take care of yourself and give your energy only to what truly matters. See you in the next one.